hello, and welcome back to a podcast where I talk about going from corporate drone to corporate dropout and everything in between. And when I say everything in between, I truly mean everything in between. There is a lot of chaos and fuckery. I forgot the rest of that intro even. You know it, you love it. Welcome back to Chaos and Fuckery. Like I was saying, there's a lot of chaos and fuckery in my life currently. I have entered that season of the year where I am nonstop going and nonstop insanity. The minute I enter Halloween Horror Nights territory is the minute that whole world starts blowing up on me and everything just goes chaotic. And I'm okay with that. I like the chaos. I like thriving in it. But boy, oh boy, when I said I would give it a couple of weeks to kind of understand my new life, boy, oh boy, did I. I just didn't post after that. Oops. And I know I haven't always been the most consistent human being with this podcast, but I do genuinely want to be more consistent and grow it and show, what it could be like to have a more edited version where I'm showing assets and things like that. So that's what you have to look forward. Not this episode, though, because this episode is just going to be one of your favorites, it seems, based on my views in this particular channel, and that is my ADHD as fuck rants. I said, a couple weeks ago that my new normal was coming. Not only was I, going no contact with the majority of my family, which is still very much so a true point, and they have continued to prove me why I made that decision. With things related to my mother's birthday, things related to me and my husband, things just in general, they have proven why I have made the decision to go limited or no contact with the large majority of my family. Yay, I'm glad I have been proven right. Yay me. However, amongst all of my family is proving me right that I can't trust them and I don't want them to be a part of my life. My husband and I started long distance. And the day he left, I sat here at this computer, looked straight in the camera and said, well, he's gone. This is my new normal now. And plenty of couples out there do long distance, but when you have literally been inseparable from your spouse for the better half of 6 to 8 years, it is a rough transition to go from, never sleeping a night alone to sleeping every night alone. And thankfully, I say in a way, leading up to this transition, there was a lot of work travel involved. So I started to get used to, a day here, a couple days here, of him just not being here at the house. What I didn't prepare myself for is how much lying I would be doing. Because of the aforementioned, I can't really trust my family to be real, and I can't trust them to be understanding. And I can't trust them to not interject their opinions that I don't give two shits about and understand the situation that I'm in when they're forming those opinions. I have elected to not tell anyone that I have been long distance with my husband for almost a month now. And he's only been home for less than 24 hours in that month. And he doesn't want, me and the cats to go up there to him because he's miserable up there and he would rather find every way he can to come back home. And I'm not going to say this journey has been easy because obviously I haven't posted on my fitness channels. I haven't gotten my first video out for my gaming channel. I've been editing it slowly. But the attention span that I have had outside of doing my 9 to 5 in the last few weeks has gone to getting my scholarship clients onboarded and Silksong. And I said in a previous episode that I wanted to talk about Silksong because I'm addicted to it. Yeah, I'm addicted to it. I will spend, 2 to 3 hours a day just going through Silksong. And I'm still not done with the game because I'm bad at boss battles. I have no patience. And bosses like Splinter Sister and Widow require a lot of patience. It requires me not to just brute force my way, especially Widow. God, fuck, Widow was horrible. Just because I couldn't brute force my way through, the bells and things like that. So I have spent, probably 60 hours or so in this game, and I don't even think I've completed Act 1 yet. Some of that is also I've left the game open on accident, so I don't think I've actually completed 60 to 70 hours, but that's beside the point. Point being is I'm addicted to Silksong, and that has been my only saving grace in this last month. Building a business, while I should have, seen this, time alone and time where, I'm not bound to someone else's schedule as an opportunity to really hone in and, create content galore and work with my clients and everything else. I needed time to adjust. And I thought I would be able to just out of the gate, content. I couldn't do it. The first couple weekends that I had the opportunity to sit down and I wasn't, at a theme park or at a musical or whatever I was doing where, I was with people that I was also having to lie to, because I have made it very clear in my head that I have no intentions of telling people what my current situation is. I just explained that my husband's not going to be there, and that's that. That has been an interesting adjustment, and yes, I know it is, my own choice not to tell people and, lie to them about where he is. It is the better choice. It doesn't make it any easier. It doesn't make it any easier to explain to people, oh, he was here, or no, he wasn't, or when was the last time he was home? I don't know. I mean, I do know, but you know what I mean? My husband and I were so anti-distance when we first got married that, changing our tune now and doing what we should be doing to build the life that we want is just a lot of judgment that I don't want to deal with from people who I don't really care about their opinions. So I chose not to tell them. And that's that. But making the assumption as a business owner that I would be able to just hit the ground running and keep going and, just be the best coach ever in this transition period post him. He didn't move out, but we are long distance for short term. Post that, I was delirious. I was delusional. I was trying to do everything I could, I guess, to say, it's me and my husband against the world, and I don't give a fuck what anybody else has to say, but I didn't even give a fuck what I had to say mentally, right? I didn't want to give myself time to adjust to this new normal. I wanted to just keep going and moving and keeping to the routine that I was in, or, create a crazy schedule that my brain wasn't really jiving with, knowing that I was still going to end up getting up at, 5 o'clock in the morning when my husband texts me. I have heard my phone volume more now than I think I have, since Vibrate was invented. It's clear by the bags under my eyes that I haven't been sleeping. But that's because I was the crazy lunatic that said, I'm going to go to bed at midnight and then still try to get up and stay up when my husband texts me at between 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. because that's his schedule. Trying to adapt to whatever this new normal is for me has been a nightmare. The only things I've managed is to keep my house in order, keep my animals alive, and not cry every day, which is a miracle. I am actually genuinely surprised that I'm handling it as well as I am, because my husband's my best friend, and losing my family while also simultaneously, being distant physically from my husband is a smack to the fucking face that I don't know that even my best pattern recognition could have predicted. They say human beings are resilient, and, when put in situations that you're forced to surprise yourself, you will surprise yourself. That's how I feel right now. Because in the past, prior to this last year, where I've done a lot of inward looking on myself, I've done a lot of evaluation, getting my ADHD diagnosis, starting to advocate for potentially getting formally diagnosed as an autistic, and starting to openly say, hey, I think I'm autistic. I just don't necessarily want to be formally diagnosed purely because of the current political state where, it's apparently Tylenol that caused my potential autism, not my father, who literally would rather live in a war zone than deal with corporate America. Yeah, I don't particularly want to be on some sort of registry with that type of mindset. There's the current, latest development in autism according to RFK Jr. and it's circumcision. Well, I don't have a dick between my legs, so explain that. Explain why I have autism then, or suspected autism. I don't like to be unfair to people who are actually diagnosed. I suspect. But again, even for the people, I'm sure people who are diagnosed, especially other females, do in fact have that, I don't have a dick between my legs, so why the fuck do I have autism? So, learning I have ADHD and wasn't diagnosed until my 20s, learning that I'm potentially autistic, because, I took the RADS test and, passed that with flying fucking colors. It's kind of like Hassan, who's like, I'm not for those who know of the Hassan realm, like, he's adamantly denied that he's autistic, and then someone convinced him to take the RADS test, and he's like, I passed, right? That's how I felt when I took it. And even my mom the other night when we were talking about something, it was like, it's something that, used to be a big issue with you and me when I was a kid, was the fact that I always had to understand why. I always had to ask those clarifying questions. I always had to understand why I was doing what I was doing. I could not accept because I told you so. That was the most infuriating response on the face of the planet. My mom was notorious for using it. It frustrated me and emotionally dysregulated me to no end. Those are the kind of conversations that are coming up, and I'm like, there were signs. Why did you not? Like, if you've suspected this about my father, why did you not maybe suspect it about me too? Or were you purposely trying to drill it out of me? I don't know. But that's how I've been kind of, navigating life in the last year. And if it weren't for the fact that I spent the last year doing that, I don't think I would be sitting here right now. I think I would have exited stage left on all of my business opportunities. I think I would have said, fuck it. Honestly, I probably would still be bed rotting. Because in the past, when I got really bad depression, there was no pushing through for me. And have I been the best on my own fitness journey? No, I haven't. I need to kickstart that shit back into gear now. Now that I figured out, content, and I'm getting into the rhythm. I'm getting used to my new norm, going back to making my bed every day. And that was something I never did in high school. I am finding my routine of, I made cinnamon rolls, and I'm making, caramel apple cinnamon rolls right now. I'm finding my happy, in this miserable situation I'm in, and I am finding calm in the chaos and fucker. I, however, still don't know how I'm going to address, after the holidays, my exit from my family. I am the type of person that loves to go out smoking guns, as is my husband. And I've had to, restrain him from going out with smoking guns. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I'm watching my husband struggle with this distance a lot more than I thought he would. And wondering, why am I not struggling more? But I think it's because I'm used to it. And I really had to sit down and think about it, because someone was asking me that does know that he's gone. He's like, they were like, you're handling this pretty well. And the reality is I put on a strong face to other people, for sure. I'm not handling it as well as people think I am. But also, I'm used to it. It wasn't my husband before, but it was my dad. I've dealt with the distance from someone that, physical distance from someone that you don't want to be physically distant from. I was an only child. I was alone a lot, with a drunk for a mother and a physically distant dad. Well, who else do you have to rely on? I didn't have anybody. So I'm used to it. I'm used to being alone, but that doesn't change, getting used to changing everything about my day to day. And, I thought I would be a smart ass and be like, oh, I'm gonna get up at, 7, work out before I start work, and not start work till 10 a.m. And then I realized how miserable working at the job you hate until 7 p.m. was. That is disastrously not fun, and I was not about it. So I decided to change course on that. I did that for a week and was like, no, let's not do that. Or 8 p.m., whatever the fuck I have to work till. It's not important. So I was like, okay, maybe I still get up at 7, but instead of starting at 10, because, I spent an hour, 2 hours, editing, get up at 7, work out still at 7 instead of having to get up at like 5 and work out, but then start work at like 8:30, 9 o'clock. It's still later than I like, to be fair, because 9 o'clock is still 7, you know, but when you work remote, it's not that big of a deal. And, you know, I'm thinking of maybe, you know, using Sundays to put in extra hours for work so that I have, you know, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, where I have a Friday that I can just do all content. But if I don't do all content on a Friday, I have, you know, Thursday to do that as well. And it's so hard to balance, you know, working business and, you know, just being human. And I haven't really found that schedule ever, even when my husband was home. But I think I'm starting to find something. You know, there was a time where my schedule, I had a stream schedule where I streamed Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I wasn't editing YouTube videos, which is why I'm like taking stream away for a little bit. I'm just gonna do my edited content and then I'll build stream back up again. Because that feels the easiest to me rather than having, you know, if I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning, I can record a video at 2 o'clock in the morning and it wouldn't matter. But there is a lot of chaos in the world, in my life, in business, in the fitness industry, and I have to find some sort of grounding reality. And currently that grounding reality is the game I end up playing with my cats every morning when I go to make my bed. It doesn't matter if I just fed one of my cats, she will bolt to the bedroom to be in the middle of my bed while I'm making it. And I just put the comforter over her and she swims like a little shark throughout the bed. And it's one of the funniest things to just witness. But it keeps me grounded in my reality of, you know, this is just my day-to-day life. I'm not some, you know, famous YouTuber yet, but or maybe I'll never be. Who knows? I'm just a regular old, you know, wife and engineer and fitness coach. Like, I am grounded in this very reality by silly cats, you know, and I'm grounded to reality and not, you know, living with my head in the clouds with stupid things like my husband still has our Ring camera on his phone, even though he doesn't physically live here right now. And I will get text messages of door as I'm walking past the camera because he just sees the notification, not that it's me, you know, returning from groceries or, you know, taking out the litter or whatever. That slaps me back to reality that this is just a temporary thing and I need to not live in delusional land that I can, you know, start my workday at noon. I have to somewhat still exist like an adult and figure out a way to work with my night owl ways and utilize that time at night that I don't typically have when my husband is here to further this business rather than bullshit on my 9 to 5. But it took me a couple weeks. I'm not gonna lie and say it didn't. It took me a couple weeks. And now you know, have set my iMac up as an editing station. Nothing else is going on my iMac. And I have set things up so that I can work with my clients, I can work on content. I'm gonna do a lot of batch filming this weekend and actually just sit down, make sure my house is clean, make sure, you know, I have some fun little cinnamon rolls and meal prep on Sunday and, you know, clean my house on Sunday probably. I typically do it Saturdays, but I feel like if I'm gonna meal prep, it'll be easier just to do it on Sunday, you know? And, you know, exist in my new reality. I have taken a couple weeks to get used to it, and boy, was it a rough couple weeks to get used to. But my new reality isn't a bad one, and I have to be acutely aware of that and just exist. I don't know what else to say. I kind of walked y'all through the chaos of my last couple weeks and why I walked away, but this is the new beginning. I talked about in the last episode. This is a connection of, you know, going limited and no contact with my family. This is my new beginning. I'm starting over with the business. I'm reworking everything I'm doing. I am starting over with my content in a way. I'm getting back into photography. One day at a time, we are taking it currently. But I may even get back into Kaizen this weekend. And I think I will, actually. I think I might just start over from, you know, day one with Kaizen. Obviously, I don't have the sheets, but I can just kind of fill in the days or something. I don't know. But step by step, day by day, the chaos and fuckery will continue no matter what. I just have to roll with the punch. I keep building this business so that I can continue to be a corporate drone on my journey to being a corporate drop in probably the worst economy trying. But it is what it is, and I hope to see success on these YouTube channels, in my business, and everything in between. Come back for more chaos and fuckery, and I think I'm gonna start sharing like my vlogs, like just, you know, chaotic days and things like that on this channel alongside the podcast episodes. Let me know if you think that's a good idea. I don't know. But for now, I hope you enjoyed the chaos, and let's rev up the fuckery.